What up? It's What Incredible Man. Yes, I'm back at it again, and I just watched American Horror Story 1984. And let's just say it deserves a round of applause because it was actually really good. I thought it was going to be not as quite as good, but it actually turned out a-okay, man. Honestly, before I actually discuss the episode, let's just talk about how many tropes there were, man. There were so many. Like from the very beginning, we had the couple, well, not the couple, but the counselors in the very first part of the episode. They were trying to sleep together. The dude, he had a lambskin condom and everything, and of course they were going to die. But dude straight killed the whole cabin. He murdered everybody in the whole cabin except for that one chick, which later on down in the story murdered everybody. He straight murdered everybody in the cabin, and the way that he got those first two people was horrendous, man. They were calling themselves making out, and he just stuck the knife straight through their head and killed both of them. But it was very tropey right there at that moment, so that was a typical thing. But I did not expect for him to kill the whole cabin. But I mean, I guess I shouldn't have been surprised. But then his calling card was that he took ears, which is weird, very, very weird. But then this whole episode is nice because I like the parts where it showed the whole episode and we got introduced to Emma Roberts' character and her group of friends, and then it kind of played out the other parts of the story. Like, this happened 3 hours earlier, this one happened in 1970. Like, it broke it up into different parts and showed what happened in each time, and there was different times that everything happened. So I like that part instead of it just being one continuous episode. I like that where they went back and showed some stuff, and then it went back into 1970, and then they went to like 3 hours back and showed like what happened and everything. So then we find out Mr. Well, before we get that, we meet Emma Roberts and her whole motley crew of this season, and we find them working out, and they were doing what is the jazzercise aerobics or whatever they were doing, and that's how we got introduced to all of the characters, and I guess it was a nice introduction, and it was a nice segue to show the characters and how we met them instead of just typically all of a sudden they appear together and now they're friends. So they met at the aerobics class and it kind of sparked the friendship from there. That's fine. Everybody else knew each other, but they had just met Brooke. So that was nice. So then we have them having a nice conversation after the aerobics class and everything. Excuse me. Then we have Brooke spitting out random facts, like since they were talking about the serial killer and about how, well, not serial killer, but like gruesome murders and everything, that there's this dude running around killing people within the city limits of Los Angeles. And I thought they were talking about like the Jingle Killer guy, but that was like 1970, so they weren't even worried about that anymore. There was this new guy. And then Brooke comes up and starts spouting random stuff about serial killers. Like, well, they're easier to move in the summer months because like people sleep with their windows up. Okay, she spouts this fact. Then which is another trope. Then she turns around, goes home, and she's sleeping with her window up. I don't care if it's hot. You just spouted facts that serial killers move in the hot months, and it's easier for them to attack people because people sleep with their windows up. Why are you sleeping with your window up? So then we kind of dive into like her backstory, partially because then we see like just before she gets ready to go to bed, she stares at this, looks like an engagement ring, and puts it back in a box. Then she goes to bed, she hears some noises, and all of a sudden the serial killer is in her house and he wants her jewelry. So then he only finds that one ring, and then he was like, is this it? Then he decides to try to kill her, and she pretty much mollywops him with a frying pan, and then like her neighbor hears everything that's going on and the cops are on their way, and dude was like, I'm gonna find you. Satan will tell me how to find you and I'm gonna kill you. So then she takes up everybody on their offer because they offered her to come with them to go camping, to get out of town, to be away from the serial killer, and she didn't want to go. And all of a sudden, plot choices made it to where she decided to go with them because of the serial killer attacking her at her home. Then we get on this whole trip with them going on the way to the cabins, and we kind of get a little more exposition about the characters and stuff. And then we also find out that the Chet was supposed to be in the Olympics, but somehow he was accused of doping because when he failed his drug test, and there was a whole bunch of other stuff. But then, and then they're just doing random drugs in the car, and then we get another trope out of the blue. We have that they're driving along, and we have that one person that's walking on the side of the road that's escaped from everywhere else, and boom, they get hit by the van that our whole little motley crew is driving. Then they decide to take him to the cabin because he's severely dehydrated, he's battered, he's bruised, and everything else. But they didn't know he was dehydrated, but he was beaten up and everything. So they decided to take him to the cabin with them. And the driver dude was like, let's get our story straight. We didn't hit him. We just found him, okay? So then they get to the cabin, and they get introduced to the person that's opening the cabin and everything. And then she takes the hiker to the nurse, and she patches him up and tells him that he's severely dehydrated. So then we kind of get introduced to like the counselor, not the counselors, the cook, and everyone else that's pretty much helping around the camp. Now, before I say anything else, first of all, when they showed them around the camp and everything that happened, this camp is the camp that I would never go to. First of all, everything is too far secluded for me. I'm just being real. Everything is too way back off to, we're not near any roads for me to go camping at. But before we even get there, we got another trope that I forgot to mention, is about the old guy that's at the gas station. When an old guy at a gas station tells you something, you guys don't want to go up there, that's the sign not to go up there. He just told you guys not to go up there. He don't have to give me a reason why. I'm not going, period. But they decide to go anyway. So then he decides to tell them that, and the lunch lady tells them that there was a problem there before, but everybody just keeps brushing it off. So then we get it, then they're just kind of having a nice chat, sitting around the fire, and then the nurse tells them of the story of the gruesome murders that happened in 1970. And she wasn't telling it right. So then the lady that opened the camp decided to tell the story, and she was one of the people that was involved in the actual murder that happened in 1970. So that's how we jump back and we tell the story from her perspective and everything, which was nice. I loved that. And yeah, so she was like, well, he came in there, he stabbed me too, and I almost died, but she didn't die. And I kind of woke up after the shock and everything wore off, and he came and took my ear because that was his trophy. And Chick was like, the face she made while he was taking her ear was absolutely fantastic. She was like, I gave him nothing when he took my ear. I didn't flinch, I didn't move or nothing. But then we have that going on and everything, and it was nice. And she was like, that's it. I don't want to hear anything else. You guys know what happened, so now we don't have to talk about it anymore by the time the kids come to camp. So then we pan and we see the hiker inside the infirmary, and Brooke went to check on him, and he wakes up and he's scaring her half to death and everything, and he pulls back his hair, and we see that he's missing an ear. So that signifies that Mr. Jingles had appeared up on the land, and after listening to the lady's story, we knew he was in jail. So I thought that maybe there was another copycat killer, which happens to be, maybe the guy that was wanting to chase Brooke. But it wasn't. It was actually Mr. Jingles. So then we get a pan, and we find out that Mr. Jingles escaped 3 hours earlier. And dude, there's so much going on. So then Mr. Jingles escaped. He set all of the other patients in the hospital free, which is another trope. Like someone escapes from like a mental institution to go kill some people, and he releases all of the other inmates, prisoners and everything. So it's just so much tropes that took place, and I find myself enjoying it to have all these tropes in this whole episode. We also when we see like the whole flashback, and we see like the psychiatrist coming to find out that Mr. Jingles had escaped, then they show us how Mr. Jingles escaped. This orderly has to be the stupidest orderly in the world. You can tell that noose that was around his neck, it wasn't tight at all for him to hang, dude. Maybe he probably could have slowly died of asphyxiation, but it wasn't tight enough for him to hang himself and be dead. He could asphyxiate himself because it wasn't tight, and maybe just crushing on his throat like that, it would kind of asphyxiate him. But you could definitely tell he wasn't dead, man. Dude, the noose wasn't tight enough for anything. Then he breaks out of the thing, he kills the orderly, and he breaks out. And then next thing you know, we jump and we pan back. The psychiatrist finds the clippings and finds out why he escaped, because the camp got reopened. But then we jump back into everything, and we have all of them just sitting down having a nice moment, and then we see Mark Morrison, no, Matthew Morrison, Mark Morrison. Anyway, you know, the guy from Glee, and seeing him was nice. It was cool. He looks like a 70s, I mean, 80s counselor kind of guy. But then he comes in, and the blonde chick is like super infatuated with him because she saw him on a video, and she was like, that thing was slinging around like an elephant's trunk. But so then their whole, which was another trope, was the one character sleeping with the other character. He's a little older than her, so that was another trope that popped up. I enjoyed it. So then they're in the water, and you know, he's doing his thing, and she sees the lights of the truck watching them while they're in the water. Then she got scared and let's go. But she never told anybody else. So why wouldn't you tell somebody this? So then we jump back, and we have them sitting in the cabin room, just having a good time, enjoying each other's company. And Chet kind of flips out because they decided to watch the Olympics, and he throws a can at Ray and messes up Ray's hand. I want to say Ray. It's Roy or Ray, either way. And he scratches his hand. So he went to the infirmary to kind of go get his hand taken care of, and Brooke went to check on him. And I kind of ship them before somebody dies. I kind of ship them because I feel like somebody's going to die. And I kind of ship them together. Screw Chet. Chet is rude. Then she went to help him, and then she went to the infirmary to get the bandages and stuff. Then she found the hiker dead, and she lost her stuff, man. Then Mr. Jingle started to chase her. Then she gets to the cabin, and it pulled another trope. He was nowhere to be seen, and no one believed her. They went outside, checked. They went to the infirmary. They didn't find the hiker. Nobody believed her. And then another jump scare out of the blue, like they saw someone in a rainy coat standing outside, and it turned out to be the lady that bought the camp. And then she was like, cleanliness is next to godliness, so go clean yourself up. So, and that's pretty much how that episode went. And I gotta say, I absolutely enjoyed the whole episode. It was absolutely fantastic, and I loved the typical horror movie tropes. They were all good, and I enjoyed each and every one of them, and I love the fact that they played on them in this TV show. And let's be real, this TV show is like better than some of the horror movies that's out. That's what American Horror Story does, and it does it great. So it sells the fact of horror perfectly, and I absolutely enjoyed it because it's just like an old slasher movie, man. And I love that fact, that how like all of the fake blood be gushing out and everything. So in this whole episode, we had, I'm trying to think of the kill count. We had the orderly, the hiker, and the guy from the gas stop. I forgot that Mr. Jingles came and killed him and took his keys for his truck and stuff. So I think that's all the kill count that we had this episode. So I'm super excited for the next episode because there's going to be kids, and I guarantee some of the counselors are going to die. I'm super excited, man. But this is your boy Dick Incredible, and that's it. Honestly, I think that's it. Don't forget to smash that like button until you can't smash it anymore. Comment down below, and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them. And subscribe, but only if you really want to. And comment down below and let me know what was your favorite part about this episode, man. Peace out.